Travel photography. Well, it's my love of travel that got me into photography in the first place. And years ago, before digital, I'd take lots of pictures on holiday, come and get them developed as you used to, and wonder why they look nothing like they did in a brochure. 11 years ago, I was on holiday in Australia and walked into a photo exhibition from a local photographer called Peter Lick. I think you call it a seminal moment. His work just blew my mind, and I thought it'd be lovely to learn how to do this properly. Little did I know at the time, but a year and a half, 2 years and 2 redundancies later, I thought, I've had enough of the corporate world, I'm going to take the plunge and learn how to do photography. But travel photography has always been my passion. So this is an insight into what's involved, and hopefully gives you a few tips as to how you can improve on your travel photography. The first thing to look at is the time of day and the light. Now, without question, if you're photographing outside, particularly landscapes, first thing in the morning, last thing in the evening, the light's just better. It's warmer, the shadows aren't so bad, the contrast isn't so great, you can get nicer pictures. This is an example, pre-dawn. We're in Mayan ruins in a place called Tikal in Guatemala, and up the top of one of these pyramids. Now, the thing about this light at this time of day is it changes very quickly. And if you can see in the foreground, you can see the outline of all the trees in the rainforest. Now, if this photograph had been done 4 minutes earlier, that would have been black. There'd have been no definition there at all. Likewise, if it had been done 3 or 4 minutes later, the sky would have been too bright for the photograph to have worked. In fact, what happened was when the sky got bright, all the mist rose, so you wouldn't have been able to take the shot at all. So early is important. After dawn, they call this golden hour for a very good reason. Look at the warm yellow hue on the photograph. This is in Tuscany in October. And just because it's landscape, you don't have to hold the camera that way round. Turn it in portrait style like this to get a slightly different view on the scene. A couple of compositional points is, think of something in the foreground that can make a focal point as well. In this case, the vine and the light on the vine. But the subject, which is San Gimignano, is 3/4 of the way up on the left. But the real thing about the photograph is the time of day and the light. The second tip on composition. This is the Tanalot temple in Bali, which is a massive tourist attraction over there, and huge numbers of people visit, and they're off the right of where the temple is. And when you're thinking about composition, you need to get into a position where there aren't thousands of people. This took me about a 20-minute walk to go all the way around to this side and get the view, but it enabled me to get the temple, none of the people, and look at where the temple is and the horizon. They're not in the middle of the picture. Try and steer clear of putting the horizon or your object, the subject that you're photographing, in the middle of the picture. There's a little bit of foreground colour from the greenery, but one of the things about this picture is I've been able to use the water line, because look for lines in landscapes because they help the viewer's eye into the picture. Talking of people, one of the things that's, if you're photographing larger landscapes, this is in the Atlas Mountains in Morocco. And you've got no real idea of how big the scene is. A little bit of an idea from the fact that there's some kind of road and a building at the top right. But if you look at the little guy in the middle, include somebody in the picture in the bigger landscape, because it's a really good way of giving you scale and also how we interact with the environment. The other thing about this shot is it's taken near the middle of the day. So fortunately the valley is in shade. But in these kind of latitudes, the sky can be quite featureless in that time of day, so leave it out. Same kind of principle, this is in the wilds of Iceland. Again, the people are in there simply to give an idea of scale as to how we fit into the environment. Another tip is look for different angles on photographs. You don't have to do what I did here, which is get up into a biplane and hang over the edge to take a picture. That might be a bit extreme. But this is the 7 Mile Bridge in the Florida Keys. And, well, you can't take a bridge from floor level if it's 7 miles long, for a start. But notice again the horizon is near the top of the picture. But I'm using elements of the plane to frame the image as well, which is always worth looking out for. But camera angle, you don't have to be in the plane, as I say. These are the Petronas Towers in Kuala Lumpur. Now, I spent about an hour around about the end of the day photographing them, trying to work out what's the best angle, what's the best lens, what's the best shot. And it was when it went dark, and it was quite simple. I just turned the camera up and looked. Nothing particularly complicated about it, but compositionally it's balanced, and I just like the effect. So play around with the camera angle. There's a tendency to take everything at eye level, go down, go up, go sideways, try something different to get an original image. If you're traveling, photographing people is always fascinating. You can do it without them noticing, with a zoom lens, or shooting from the hip, or just very quickly going across, photographing them. Not the best way, in my opinion, and this is another tip, is interact with them. There's a couple of examples of this. This guy runs a bar called Flavors in a place called San Ignacio in Belize. I walk around the corner and see him and his bar. That's colour. I want to take his picture. So I start talking. Do you mind if I take the picture? No. All right. So we decide, I'm there with my wife and daughter, let's sit down and have a rum punch. It was rather nice, so we had another one. Then we started talking to him and paid the bill and had another go. I said, would you mind if I take the picture? He said, no, all right then. Okay, it's taking a bit of effort, but it's worth it. And what I wanted to do with this one was not only focus on him, but get him in the context of his bar because of the colours. I'm looking at it, he's a character, but the colours of the bar say everything. The other one, doing the same thing, is if you just want to focus on the face. Now this lady, this is taken in a town on the edge of Lake Atitlan in Guatemala, and she actually saw me wandering around with a camera and beckoned me over and said, hey, you want to take my picture? I said, yeah, sure. She said, right, 5 guazzos. Okay, now you've got to decide what to do. When you go outside of the Western world, that is very common. So have a thought about, if you want to photograph people, have some loose change or small notes, because otherwise you're going to run into difficulties. You can say no and walk on, that's not a problem. The only no-no with this is don't say no, you won't pay, and then try and take the picture. That is really insulting, really rude, and really disrespectful. Go in close. This is a Maasai warrior. Without communicating with him, there's no way you could go and kneel down and start taking a photograph of his side. He probably wouldn't be very polite. But you can go in close, not just on people, but also on sites. This is the Royal Palace in Bangkok. Very big tourist site, hundreds of people. One way of avoiding the crowds is to go in and get a tight, close shot on detail. And you're always after finding different shots. Wildlife, unpredictable. We're in the middle of a herd of 60 elephants in Hwangi Game Park in Zimbabwe. The big thing about this is you've got to keep watching. You can see the mother elephant sort of nudging the little guy at the front. That lasted for 2 seconds. If you're not behind the camera, you've missed it. Similarly, going southeast a bit, this is the Shushului Mfolozi Game Park in South Africa, out towards Mozambique. I spent about 5-10 minutes photographing these zebras, but if I'd have missed it, you'd never got the same thing again. I just love it because it reminds me of coming back late from that pint after work and walking into what you probably deserve. Right, lastly, patience. You must just be patient when you're around. This is Armona Island, which is a beautiful place, little known off the coast of Portugal. When the sun sets, it's very, very bright in the middle of the sun, so you're going to get a white area of whiteout in the shot. So try and hide it, either with the buildings or the clouds. Use the water, helps reflect it, gives a nice feel to the shot. And look at the edge of the clouds if it's a sunset, because as the sun goes down, you have a wonderful effect on the side of the cloud. But in all traditional manner, when you go down to, I'm sure we've all been to those sunset bars, where hordes of people come out with a camera, as soon as the sun disappears, they're back to the bar, wait. 15 minutes later, there's all kinds of changes going on in the sky, and you can get some really nice, colourful sky shots, so be patient. that's pretty much it. But in summary, my tips for improving your photography would be, think about the light and the time of day. It's called golden hour for a reason. Use those for outside photography. When you're composing your shot, keep it uncluttered. Look, you don't have to use a rule of thirds, which speaks for itself, but think about where you want to position the elements of the photograph. Look for natural lines in the landscape. People in landscapes use them to show the scale. It's simple. In a big landscape, put a person in, you immediately know, you get a feel for the scale of it. Change your camera angle. It's all about trying to find different photographs. So don't take the ones that everybody takes. Go down on the floor, go up high, tilt the camera. Communicate when you're photographing people. A smile goes a very long way. And also, when you've taken the shot, if you can show them on the back of the camera, you get some fantastic reactions, particularly with kids. Go in close to concentrate on detail, or just cut out the crowds. Wildlife, you will need a good zoom lens, unless you fancy going strolling up to a lion or an elephant, on your own head be it. And keep watching, because things change a second or so and you've missed a shot. Finally, be patient. Get yourself into the position, particularly if it's sunrise or sunset, and stay there, because the light changes very quickly. That's about it. Thank you very much for listening.